Testing, 1, 2, 3. About as simple as the title bats. So we got another episode that focuses on Rainbow Dash trying to become a Wonderbolt by taking a history test in order to join the new Wonderbolts reserves. Now after reading the synopsis of this episode, I actually thought this episode was going to be about Rainbow Dash cheating as sort of the unconventional way of studying, but instead this episode goes with a whole school environment and different teaching method route. And I have to admit the episode did a good job in its execution. The conflict was established in the beginning of the episode, and I was becoming bored at some moments, but that's what the episode meant to do in order to get you in the same mindset as Rainbow Dash. It also had some great comedy bits that kept me interested in watching, though some moments were more awkward than others. Let's go over this episode now. The episode begins with some dialogue between Rainbow Dash and Twilight, and Rainbow Dash realizes that she needs to study for the history test on the Wonderbolts, and Twilight volunteers to help her study with 3 common teaching methods, highlighting the important text, a lecture on the subject, and then flashcards. As we all know, these methods don't seem to work out for someone as headstrong as Rainbow Dash, and this doesn't necessarily imply that Rainbow Dash is stupid because she can't recall all the information given to her. I mean, some methods of learning can work for others, but not everyone has the same mindset to recall the information presented to them. I myself had trouble in math during college to where I can write down the lesson and follow most of what you are saying, but once I leave your classroom, I can't recall anything you just said in today's lesson. I would need notes or ways to incorporate the info I just learned into my everyday life to better remember. It's like learning a new language. If you don't use it, then you forget it. In the next scene we see everyone is trying out their own methods in the hopes that Rainbow Dash can learn the history of the Wonderbolts either from theatrical performance, musical intervention, or the Fashion History Museum. And none of them seem to work, but I have to admit, Rarity's expression was pretty funny. Now let's move on to the lesson in the episode. While the lesson was a bit questionable, there are tons of people out there that can relate to the lesson learned in this episode. Everyone has different methods of studying or can understand material a lot easier than others. Rainbow Dash is aware of everything that goes on around her because she's a weather pony and knows how to multitask while flying. This is actually hinted at the beginning of the episode, and Twilight finds out that Rainbow Dash can learn things a lot easier subconsciously versus formally. But one question that I have about Rainbow Dash's situation is how everyone else but Dash knows about the history of the Wonderbolts. Is it really common knowledge to know this stuff? Also, did Twilight say General Firefly? I guess since they can't use the character, they decided to find some way to mention the name in this episode. One thing I also noticed about this episode was the animation. I mean, the transitions between Twilight's teaching and Pinkie Pie's Wonderbolt rat were good visual effects. Other scenes I loved were the bird's eye view of Ponyville and how the shadows of Rainbow Dash and Twilight were animated when going over houses, and the rewind effect to recap what happened earlier during their flight. Anyways, I think it's time for my final thoughts on this episode. The pacing in this episode was a bit slow at times, but this is the right mindset for those who do go through similar situations like this when it comes to learning new things. I can't really find any big issues with this episode other than small little nitpicks here and there, but after checking around I found out that some people really don't like the Pinkie rap, and I can understand that. I'm not a big fan of rap music, but I'm not calling the episode bad because of that scene. The characters were presented well in the episode, and even the short appearance by others were handled well. I agree with Dr. Wolf here that the interaction between the characters seemed like an actual conversation between them and not a discussion to get the plot moving. There were just a ton of funny moments in this episode, so I would give this episode a 4 out of 5 stars. I'd say that Amy Keating-Rogers is on a good track record this season. Tune in to next week's episode where I review Treasure by Scott Sonybone. Wait, there's no new episode next week? Oh well, may as well go hang out in the Rift Cafe. See you all later.